cover story. This week we take a look at the new Prime Minister's global outreach. For after successfully selling brand Modi, he is now keen to market brand India. And as Prime Minister Modi travels light, in fact, it almost seems as if he's on a shopping spree, shopping for both international investment and personal goodwill. Narendra Modi, the showman, is on full display when he travels abroad. He plays the flute, beats the drums, reunites families, and even makes the simple act of sipping tea into a bilateral event. But not for 1 minute. Despite the showmanship, are we allowed to lose sight of the main narrative? He is there to sell the India story, or as he puts it, the Make in India story.
आमतौर पर भारत की पहचान ये बन जाती है, भाई छोड़ो यार, वहां रेड टेप है, पता नहीं सरकारी कारोबार में कब गाड़ी चलेगी। मैं आपको विश्वास दिलाने आया हूं, आज भारत में रेड टेप नहीं, रेड कारपेट है। और ये रेड कारपेट आपका इंतजार कर रही है। स्किल, क्वालिटी मैन पावर अवेलेबल हो तो मैं विश्वास से कहता हूं, जो 10 साल में मिरेकल आप जापान में रह करके आपकी कंपनी का करते हैं, आप वो मिरेकल 2 साल के भीतर भीतर हिंदुस्तान में कर सकते हैं। इतनी संभावनाओं का वो देश है। पिछला 1 दशक हमारा कठिनाइयों से गुजरा है। मैं उसके विवाद में जाने के लिए इस फोरम का उपयोग करना नहीं चाहता हूं, लेकिन पहले ही क्वार्टर में 5.7% के ग्रोथ के साथ हमने एक बहुत बड़ा जंप लगाया है और इसने एक बहुत बड़ा विश्वास पैदा किया है, क्योंकि हम 4.4, 4.5, 4.6 के आसपास लुढ़कते रहते थे और एक निराशा का माहौल था। उससे बहुत बड़ा बदलाव आया है। और आप जानते हैं, गो नो गो ये एक ऐसी स्थिति होती है कि जो किसी को भी डिसीजन लेने के लिए उलझन में डाल देती है।
I think it's been a very successful visit. He was all over the place in Japan, and he touched various parts of Japanese society apart from the government. And he seems to have made a very good rapport with the Prime Minister Abe. And it's important for us in geopolitical terms, for the whole region, not only ASEAN but also for the SAARC region, that China and India are coming, Japan and India are coming closer, and the Japanese are very keen.
You see, I don't really see a huge difference between Modi, the political campaigner at home, and Modi, the diplomat outside. I think there is a natural extension. Many people say he's still in an election mode when he's traveling abroad. He's giving speeches like he's addressing voters. But that's what it is. It is about his quest for getting a global 272, as it were. I remember somebody had told me as soon as he got elected that we have got the domestic bahumat. Ab hame international bahumat ki taraf jana chahiye. And this is a very important element of his diplomacy right now, considering that for 10 years many parts of the Western world stayed away from him and there was almost like a global snub. So this is his Modi, the campaigner, and how he is abroad, and we've seen that, how he wooed the voters in India.
If you see Mr. Modi's foreign policy, I would visualize that the direction he would have given to his foreign ministry or the foreign minister would be to remove all obstacles in the path of India's economic progress. Incidentally, when Japan surrendered after Second World War and the Japanese were given the constitution by General MacArthur, the role and function of the Japanese foreign ministry were precisely these: to remove all obstacles in the path of Japan's economic progress. And I think Japan did pretty well on that basis.
The Charm Offensive offers tantalizing glimpses of Modi the Pied Piper as he tries to get global leaders to play to India's tune. Just as on the campaign trail he made an emotive pitch for brand Modi, he is now captivating an international audience with his vision for brand India. And of course, being Modi, his worldview of Brand India begins with Brand Gujarat.
अगर आप गुजरात एक्सपीरियंस को एक अपना पैरामीटर मानते हैं तो मैं आपसे आग्रह करूंगा कि आने वाले दिनों में भारत में भी आपको वही रिस्पांस, वही सुविधाएं, वही गति और वही परिणामकारी स्थितियां मिलेगी। ये मैं जापान के सभी उद्योग जगत के मित्रों को विश्वास दिलाने के लिए आया। मारुति उद्योग के संबंध में मुझे मिलने आते थे तो मैंने उनको एक हिसाब समझाया था। मैंने कहा आप गुड़गांव में कार बनाते हैं और फिर एक्सपोर्ट करते हैं तो समुद्र तट पर जाने में आपकी कार को 9,000 रुपया खर्च लगता है, लेकिन अगर समुद्री तट पर आप गाड़ी बनाओगे तो हर कार पे आपको 9,000 बच जाएगा। तो उन्होंने कहा मुझे तो ये व्यापारी किसी ने सिखाया नहीं। और वो एक बात ऐसी थी कि उनको निर्णय करने में क्लिक कर गई।
I think that was a very deft use of soft power. It was not only the drum diplomacy, the way he went dressed in all white and white shoes also when he went to Kyoto, the very fact that he picked Kyoto, it was not only the drum diplomacy, the way he went dressed in all white and white shoes also when he went to Kyoto, the very fact that he picked Kyoto, the temple city of Japan, and associated it with Varanasi, was use of soft power that we have a common background of religion. Again, when he referred to the Japanese handling their dead bodies after the earthquake and after the nuclear disaster, and compared it with Indians handling lifting dead bodies in our earthquake and disasters, and said that therefore the Japanese respect even their dead as much as they're alive, was A, playing up to the Japanese sentiment because they actually believe in ancestor worship. At the same time telling them that we are no less, we also respect our ancestors the same way that you do. He was using soft power very, very well.
But he accepts that you've got to have a little game, you've got to get something for the TV studios, you've got to play to the gallery a bit, and that's what you'll see. I think the next big circus on that front is going to be in America, where you'll see very few deliverables, because Obama in many ways is incapable of delivering anything. And there's not been enough time for us to rebuild a relationship with the United States that had sort of disintegrated over the past 4 years. But he'll have the Madison Square Gardens, he'll have speeches, he'll have the Indian American community. He'll build up a lot of the circus side of it to compensate for the fact that he doesn't have that much on the deliverable side.
I call it the flute and drum diplomacy. There is a human element of Modi that comes out. He's cracking jokes. He's posing with the NRI crowds wherever he's going out. He's going into the temples and praying. He's talking about reuniting a Nepali boy with his family back in Nepal. And he's pulling some child's ears. He's playing the flute and the drum. It's a lot like the US presidential visits, like when Clinton or Obama came to India. You often got the photo ops of Michelle Obama or the President Barack Obama, you know, dancing with the slum kids, going to some NGO, singing songs and doing some crafts. So it's a lot about soft power diplomacy. Traditionally, we understood India's soft power diplomacy as Bollywood and yoga and those kinds of things. But here it's something else. It's about personality. He just brings his personality into his dealings. And these are still early days. These are rapport building exercises. These are first few visits. So he's really building a rapport with international leaders, and so the personality becomes important.
Modi's larger-than-life persona certainly dictates his style, even in the arena of foreign policy, where understated nuances and not overstated gestures tend to rule the narrative. But Modi certainly knows how to dominate a stage and change the narrative to what best suits him.
There is the method to it, and the impact that it makes. When you contrast it with Dr. Manmohan Singh, who was very retiring, didn't do anything dramatic or light-hearted. Modi is going around as a human being, and apart from being a leader, he relates to people, whether they are students, whether they are politicians, whether they are journalists, whether they are children, and he did it very well in Japan.
Now, I think he's more like President Ronald Reagan. If you remember, Ronald Reagan at home was considered the extreme right. In fact, some even referred to him as a little bit right of Genghis Khan. With that, as a hardliner at home, one thing was certain, that he knew that if he negotiated anything abroad, he didn't have to worry about selling it to his own constituency, that is his own nation. They would accept whatever decisions he took. It was because of this that he was able to get the breakthrough with Mr. Gorbachev at Reykjavik. Another quality of President Reagan, which seems abundant with Mr. Modi, Mr. Reagan was known as the great communicator. And it is obvious that Mr. Narendra Modi, in his own part of the world, is not any less.
It's not so much what he wears. It's really about how he carries himself. You know, Manmohan Singh was this stiff, robotic, rarely smiling politician. He dressed very nattily, and but somehow those are things that never got talked about because his personality did not emit those kinds of debate. But something about Modi's personality and the way he engages it brings attention to what he wears also.
The sartorial style is part of the quintessential Modi package. Even in foreign land, he retains his core style, speaking in Hindi but yet making a personal connect with the audience.
एक ही प्रकार की बीमारी के दो पेशेंट हो, समान बीमारी हो, पेशेंट की उम्र भी समान हो, हॉस्पिटल भी सेम हो, डॉक्टर भी सेम हो, लेकिन एक जल्दी बीमारी से बाहर आता है, दूसरा नहीं आता है। कारण क्या? कारण ये होता है कि जो पेशेंट होता है वो रिस्पॉन्ड करता है। एक पेशेंट होता है वो शिकायत करता रहता है। जो पेशेंट रिस्पॉन्ड करता है, डॉक्टर वही है, वो एकदम से बदलाव लाता है। मैंने देखा है कि सामान्य मानवी जितना अधिक रिस्पॉन्ड करे, उस अप्रोच के लिए जो एनवायरनमेंट क्रिएट करेंगे, उससे परिणाम ज्यादा मिलता है। और इसलिए मेरी कार्यशैली की विशेषता रही है कि मैं अपनी ताकत पर भरोसा कम करता हूं, मुझे जो मिलने आता है उसकी ताकत पर ज्यादा भरोसा करता हूं, और वही एक जड़ी बूटी है जिस जड़ी बूटी ने इस ताकत के समूह को एक बहुत बड़ा परिवर्तन।
Modi's strategy of first consolidating India's neighborhood before rushing to the west seems to have impressed most foreign policy wonks. In fact, they see it as a mix of both shrewd security strategy and pragmatic economic diplomacy. While Modi is still far from spearheading a South Asian bloc on the lines of the European Union, he is certainly making sure that his notes are first heard in the neighborhood before venturing further.
And to me it appears that his strategic vision is, step one, to ensure a secure, firm base, that is the home ground, both politically as well as security-wise. If you recall, in his visit to Nepal, he made an oblique reference and extended a hand to the Maoists when he said in Nepal that the Maoists in Nepal had till the other day been fighting the Nepalese forces in the Nepalese army, and now they have joined the democratic process and part of the government running the country. It was kind of a message to our Maoists that you can also do the same and join the democratic process. That is his part, that first I must assure my own borders, then reach out. And when you reach out globally, don't bite more than what you can chew. So obviously, to reaching out to the leading superpower of the world and to other countries like Russia would have to be at a later stage once we have consolidated our gains regionally.
Well, I think it fits in with basically the two priorities that he's laid out for his foreign policy. One is the neighborhood is important. Neighborhood, arguably minus Pakistan, but the small countries, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, these are countries that India has neglected and needs to restore or revitalize the relationship. And second is economic diplomacy. That the core problem in India faces right now is that its economy is sagging, and it needs help on that front, and without the economy, nothing else will work. Therefore, everything in my foreign policy, as much of my foreign policy as possible, should be geared towards helping revive the economy. So where's that economic help going to come from? The real sources of capital, surplus capital, technology, and so on right now are in East Asia, Southeast Asia, East Asia, Japan, China, to some degree the ASEAN countries. So I'm going to go to them for the economics, and I'm going to the neighborhood countries, partly for strategy and partly for stabilizing my neighborhood.
However, what made his recent visit to Japan all the more interesting was the one odd note he struck during this bilateral symphony. This is of course the not so off-the-cuff snub to China.
दुनिया दो धाराओं में बटी हुई है। एक विस्तारवाद की धारा है और दूसरी विकासवाद की धारा है। हमने तय करना है विश्व को विस्तारवाद की चुंगाल में फंसे देना है या विश्व को विकासवाद के मार्ग पर जाकर के नई ऊंचाइयों को पाने के लिए अवसर पैदा करना है। आज हम चारों तरफ देख रहे हैं 18वीं शताब्दी की जो स्थिति थी वो विस्तारवाद नजर आ रहा है। किसी देश में एंक्रोचमेंट करना, कहीं समुद्र में घुस जाना, कभी किसी देश के अंदर जाके कब्जा करना, इन चीजों की प्रवृत्ति चल रही है। ये विस्तारवाद कभी भी मानव जात का कल्याण 21वीं सदी में नहीं हो सकता।
No, I think the Chinese president is coming here end of the month. So I don't think we should read too much in what Mr. Modi said about expansionist people. I mean, they could be Pakistan or anybody else, but the fact that the president of China is coming here immediately after his visit to Japan is itself very significant. And it gives us the flexibility as a great nation.
No, I do not think his meeting or his utterances in Japan were a snub to China at all. But what he did do was, as a part of his objective, to send a message to China indirectly, keeping in mind that the forthcoming visit of the Chinese president to India is a very important occasion. And indeed, during those talks here, negotiations of some form will take place. Now, Mr. Modi, I believe, thinks rightly that you do not negotiate from a position of weakness. So if he has to negotiate with China, China must not think that India is negotiating from a position of weakness. That is why you find, whilst in Japan, his reference to the South China Sea or to the maritime waters was very much telling China that we also have some role in the security environment in that part of the world. At the same time, his actions at home, for instance, like building up and boosting up our military infrastructure, like raising a mountain core, which obviously is only meant against China, with a massive program of road infrastructure right up to the borders, would send perhaps the right message to China that Mr. Modi and India is willing to negotiate, but not from a position of weakness. And I think that is the kind of a message the Chinese appreciate.
Here is a nation, which is Japan, that he's friendly with, that he is admired. And here is another nation that India has constant border troubles with. But Modi is an admirer of China's economic miracle as well. So Modi himself is split. He's always admired China's economic transformation, but he's also aware of the border problems and the constant rivalry along the border. So he goes to Japan and takes a swipe at China. But the Chinese president is going to come here in a couple of weeks to India. So it will be a tough tightrope walk for Modi as well.
Both of them, we have a strong economic interest. China is our number one trading partner. We're hoping to attract a large amount of foreign investment from China. Japan, on the other hand, is a growing economic partner, but again, only recently has it started to come in. But what is lacking with the Chinese relationship is we don't have a strategic facet to it, because we don't trust the Chinese. There's a degree of distrust between us. We're not going to be carrying out a military relationship with China, because half our military is aimed at fighting China and vice versa.
While he can get away with breaking some China over tea in Japan, Modi's big foreign policy test will come later this month, when he packs his bags for the big-ticket US visit. And while he may be lost in the crowd at the UN, he has managed an enviable seat at an after-party for two with the US President in Washington post the UN meet. Coming after the cold shoulder, post the Gujarat riots, this gesture assumes all the more significance.
That's the true test. But I have a feeling the US will also go the extra mile, especially because the US has a baggage too. You talked about Modi having a baggage. The US administration has a baggage with Modi. So they will be laying out the red carpet. The charm offensive is already visible. He will go to the Madison Square Garden and probably address thousands of people, a place where Elvis Presley used to perform. So there is that kind of reception, warm reception that's awaiting him there, and the huge NRI lobby there, the Indians in the United States who adore Modi, and they have been working for this moment for a long time. So I don't really see any problem, because both parties are going to be at their best.
I think when Mr. Narendra Modi speaks now, the whole world listens. And therefore, his visit will not be just another full stop or a comma in the American political scenario. Now, the whole world listens. And therefore, his visit will not be just another full stop or a comma in the American political scenario. It will have an impact. Also, America does realize that it cannot have both China and India, which will total amount to almost 1/3 of the world's population, in any way both not friendly with them. They can manage one not friendly, but not both.
The Americans are very keen, going out of the way, and he is being very correct. He is not bubbling over the thing that they came here, which is a good thing. But I think after that he will, if I were advising him, I would first tell him to go to West Asia, starting from the Gulf states and to Iran and then to Saudi Arabia and these countries. Later on, I would advise him to visit several countries in Africa, because we have neglected Africa, and the Chinese are all over Africa. And we had an advantage over them, because there are so many Indians living in South Africa, in Mozambique, in Tanzania, in Zambia, in Kenya, and Uganda. So I think we should pay more attention to Africa.
While most prime ministers enjoy having a fling with the Foreign Affairs Ministry, perhaps enamored by the opportunity for global fame, this prime minister seems more smitten than most. It is no secret that foreign policy is run solely by the PMO and not the MEA. And what makes it all the more interesting is the not-so-secret Cold War between the Prime Minister and his Foreign Minister, Sushma Swaraj.
I would not think that Modi is eclipsing the Foreign Minister at all. I mean, before he went to Nepal, it was Sushma Swaraj who went there and worked on the groundwork, did the groundwork for his visit. She went to other countries as well. So she has been doing the quiet groundwork diplomacy. And Modi is not doing it for the first time. Who remembers Salman Khurshid's foreign policy stamp? We only remember Manmohan Singh's foreign policy stamp, right? So I would say even Manmohan Singh did the same.
Well, I think there's a key fundamental problem between him and Sushma Swaraj, is that my sense is that they don't really like each other very much. She was always on the other side within the BJP. She was one of the last members of L.K. Advani's camp to eventually accept that he was going to be the Prime Minister. What I'd heard is that he didn't really want to give her a senior cabinet position anyway. So that is always a fundamental problem, is that there's no trust between the two sides. Second, Modi's entire style, not just with her but with other ministers, that the minister's role is minimal. I work with key bureaucrats, I work out the policy myself, and I don't bother to, the minister basically just signs on the dotted line and I do it myself. Now, foreign policy, to be fair, is something we expected Modi not to be too interested in. And I think he's developed a taste for it over time. He likes the sort of glamour, and I think he thinks it's a bit easy. Possibly he'll find later on that as he gets into a little more difficult turf in foreign policy, it's not that easy. So the result is that you can see that we're already having we've had a number of issues. Where the PMO, in my view, the Prime Minister's office and the Foreign Ministry don't quite communicate with each other. For example, on the first Japan trip, which was announced and cancelled, postponed, and PMO clearly didn't, and MEA didn't seem to know what the PMO was doing. And there have been other issues and smaller protocol problems in foreign policy. At some point, that may trip us up on something much larger than just a trip to Japan, which anyway is a friendly nation. But yes, I think the foreign ministry right now is probably at one of its weakest phases in the past 10 or 15 years. Because we have a prime minister and a foreign minister who don't necessarily get along, but more importantly, we have a foreign minister who is now increasingly concentrating foreign policy decision-making within the prime minister's office, which, as you said, has happened before. But I think it may be particularly extreme in Modi's case over the next 6 or 7 months.
Certainly, India's prime foreign minister has made a grand entry on the South Asian stage. And emboldened by his success, Prime Minister Modi is now all set to use his visa power to woo the suddenly not-so-distant United States. But from us, it's time to say goodbye. That's all for this week. Thank you for watching Cover Story, and we'll see you again same time next week.